Once you get past the initial phases of a relationship with a narcissist, you can expect something kind of interesting to happen. And that is that communication will change. Everything will be different. Today, we're going to talk about different ways that narcissists manipulate us with communication. Let's start with when they stop talking to us altogether. Let's talk about stonewalling and the silent treatment. Stonewalling, in a nutshell, is a manipulation tactic often used by narcissists where they refuse to communicate or cooperate with you to resolve any issue. Now, this can be seen in both the way they ignore you and in their body language, and the narcissist might simply just refuse to engage in resolving the issue at all. Are you getting the silent treatment after an argument with someone in your life? Does someone use the silent treatment or the stonewalling technique against you as a form of punishment for when they feel annoyed or wronged? Do you ever feel exhausted or confused because you aren't even really sure what you did wrong? Well, you might be getting stonewalled, also known as the silent treatment. Toxic narcissists have a tendency to demonstrate a pattern of self-centered, arrogant thinking and behavior, not to mention their extreme lack of empathy and consideration for other people. Narcissists also tend to really need to be admired and treated differently than other people. They see themselves as more important than you or anyone else. Narcissists are often described as being kind of full of themselves, really cocky, manipulative, selfish. They're patronizing, and of course, we all know they're demanding. This way of thinking and behaving literally affects every area of the narcissist's life, including work, friendships, family, and even romantic relationships. This is exactly why and how the narcissist is so capable of enacting the stonewalling technique in the first place, and how they can do it with so little concern for the profound effect that it can have on the people they're using it against. Just to be clear, when a narcissist stonewalls you, the purpose is emotional manipulation, psychological control, and ultimately to get what they want. The silent treatment is a manipulation tactic where the narcissist will stop talking to you for days, hours, weeks, even months in some cases, in order to punish you for something they think you've done wrong or some perceived slight. It can cause serious emotional and psychological damage, especially if you don't realize what's happening. Believe it or not, this is just one of the many signs of gaslighting and emotional abuse that you might notice if you are in a toxic relationship with an abusive narcissist. Stonewalling is what we call it when someone stops speaking to you and or recognizing your presence. They refuse to engage in communication with you in response to some conflict or problem that they see or have with you and or your relationship. We also call stonewalling the cold shoulder. It's a form of avoidance that in theory accomplishes nothing other than making the situation harder and more difficult to deal with and escalating it. Logically, you as the victim will become resentful and you'll become less interested in resolving the issue. So what are you supposed to do when you're the victim of the narcissist's silent treatment? Most experts are going to tell you that ideally this would be a two-word answer: no contact. But in real life, things don't always work ideally, and sometimes people have to live with narcissists. The first thing that you need to do as a survivor, as a future thriver, is educate yourself about the situation. I always say that knowledge is power, and the first fact you must know about this issue is exactly why they do it. Why do they give you the silent treatment in the first place? So let's talk about the narcissist cycle of abuse. There are three main phases that you're going to find yourself going through with them. This is, of course, the idealization or love bombing phase, where you are showered with fake love, which makes you believe the narcissist is like your soulmate from heaven. The beginning of a relationship with a narcissist can be very deceptive. In most cases, a narcissistic relationship begins just like any other, with the standard phases of initial attraction, infatuation, and eventually falling in love. So do you remember the time when you first met your narcissistic ex and you thought that they were your soulmate? You could not believe that everything you loved, they loved, and everything you didn't like, they also didn't like. And then they would be so sweet and charming until their narcissistic side came out anyway. And then the next phase is where they devalue you and you begin to see their true colors, but they're cruel and they're condescending and they find things wrong with you. At first, they were like a dream come true for you and they became eventually your worst nightmare. But what you didn't know then is that the narcissist, they had their own underlying psychological issues, likely starting in early childhood. And then that last phase, of course, when they discard you. What happens is at the end of a narcissistic relationship, you get no closure. You're left reeling and spinning and you've got nothing. You have no idea what happened sometimes. And even if you do know what happened, you seek closure and you don't get it. And if you want closure, you're usually looking for something from the narcissist that makes it easier for you, whether it is an explanation of their behavior or an admission from them that you didn't do whatever it is that caused the breakup or some other sort of closure. You never get it. It's very frustrating. The narcissist treats you like a thing as opposed to being a person. But you are treated during the breakup as an object or an extension of the narcissist's self, while a healthier person, even if the breakup is nasty and bad, might actually treat you with a little bit of love and respect, or at least respect. So while you can feel devastated and alone and confused and everything else at the end of a regular relationship, you're also going to find yourself feeling a whole different way at the end of a narcissistic relationship. I like to call it uncomfortably numb, right? Where you find yourself feeling completely lost. You don't even know what end is up. You don't even know who you are anymore. Well, the way they treat you is damaging. It's inhumane. It makes you not even know where you're at sometimes on a certain metaphysical level, right? The reasoning for the breakup from a narcissist is often convoluted, and if you aren't the one that did the discard, you very often find yourself feeling like you don't know what hit you. It's a roller coaster of emotions, and then suddenly you're out on your ass and you have no idea why. All right, so it's important to recognize that while many people have a moment, they need to step away, they need to retreat and think about stuff. Someone who really cares about you is never ever going to use this abusive tactic to punish you. This is not a tactic a healthy person would use, you understand? Normal people don't punish someone for their own bad behavior, such as being caught in a lie, but narcissists, as you painfully know, most definitely will. This, my friend, should be a huge red flag for you. So is the silent treatment a form of abuse? Well, yeah, it is. It's a passive-aggressive form of emotional abuse. It is used as a way to manipulate you and control you, and it can also be used as part of a strategy for psychological abuse that can cause complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or CPTSD, in you or other victims over time. So how do you deal with living with a narcissist who is stonewalling you or giving you the silent treatment? How do you deal with someone who will coexist in this same house with you while literally ignoring your entire existence? And what if it goes on for days or even weeks? How do you beat the narcissist's silent treatment? Not only is it emotionally exhausting, but getting the silent treatment, getting stonewalled, makes you feel like you're completely worthless, and it can make you feel like you're losing your mind. Why do narcissists give you the silent treatment? What's the psychology of that? See, whether they recognize it consciously or not, narcissists are wired to sort of push your buttons in order to get what they want. Now, you might wonder which button they're trying to push when they just go silent, right? Like, what does that even mean? You might be surprised to find out that it's not really about making you crazy from lack of communication or even pure boredom, but it's really more about playing on your worst fears. I'm betting one of your worst fears is the fear of being alone in the world with no help or support from anyone to just be there for you. Am I right? And I'm guessing that if you're currently involved or were once involved with a narcissist, you're thinking of all kinds of little things the narcissist did in order to play on those fears. So by verbally and emotionally cutting you off, the narcissist offers you a little taste of what life might be like without their, charming, awesome, godlike self. Did you catch that sarcasm? So that's why the narcissist ignores and belittles and devalues you, because it plays on your fear of being alone. It is the narcissist's hope that in enacting this silent narcissistic rage against you, they will force you into submission and into being the good little narcissistic supply they want. Plus, the silent treatment works particularly well on sensitive, empathic people who are often very attractive to narcissists, because we tend to be wired to respond and attempt to soothe the emotions of the people around us, especially when we love them. You feel me? As someone who is probably codependent or has been in the past, you might feel like you need to fix whatever you did wrong in order to get the narcissist to be nice to you again. But the truth is, this is exactly what the narcissist wants. For you, my friend, to bend over backward, trying to appease them. All the while, the narcissist has absolutely no intention of allowing that to happen. They will only stop using the silent treatment when it is convenient for them to do that, or when they want or need something from you, of course. If you work on your own self-esteem and you learn how to set proper boundaries for yourself, and then you recognize that you are worthy of love and respect, you're already going to be on your way to learning how to disarm the silent treatment of the narcissist. You don't have to just accept it and carry around this false hope that one day the narcissist will change, because chances are they will not. So how do you disarm a narcissist who's using the silent treatment? Well, picture this. You're getting the silent treatment again, a lovely part of the discard phase that everyone who's ever been in a narcissist path probably has experienced. Maybe you've been accused of being selfish, or of ignoring the narcissist's emotional or physical needs, or of being dishonest or arrogant or lazy, or any number of insulting descriptives that they might throw at you. But for the record, what's really happening here most of the time is projection, as in narcissists project their own inadequacies onto you. So as usual, it's all about the narcissist and not about you. I know you're shocked. Assuming you're going to play the game, here's how you're going to cope with the silent treatment. The next time you're confronted with the icy, hateful, silent treatment for yet another perceived infraction, I want you to come back here, I want you to watch this video one more time, and I want you to remember this. This is a game of control. The narcissist believes they can control you with their own lack of communication and concern. The only way to take back your power here is to refuse to respond. That's right, you just go on about your life like the narcissist isn't even there. Do whatever you normally do, and you blatantly ignore the behavior no matter how pissed off they get. So yeah, that means don't send them texts trying to reason with them. Don't post any whiny crap on your Facebook. Don't allow the narcissist to know that they are affecting you in any way at all. Do not give them what they want when they behave this way, and they'll stop. When they realize they're not breaking your heart, they're gonna try something different. And while this definitely will not solve your narcissist problem, it will most definitely stop them from enacting the silent treatment for too long. Now here's another tip for you that you're gonna wanna pay attention to. The silent treatment will end, and if you're not careful, the narcissist will hoover you back in. When they decide the silent treatment is over, and guess what? They need your narcissistic supply again, they're gonna do anything in their power to do exactly what I said. They're gonna suck you back in. That's what we call the Hoover maneuver, so don't fall for it. It's really not gonna get any better, and they're really not planning to change. In fact, the very moment that you relent and you allow the narcissist back into your heart, back into your life, they're gonna go right back to the same behavior they've always shown you. So what about the times when the narcissist won't shut up? It's kind of the opposite of the silent treatment. Let's talk about it. What about those narcissists who don't go silent on you and who instead kind of go ballistic on you? They kind of treat you to a narcissistic filibuster, as in they don't stop talking until you just crumble or give up or zone out. We all know that it's incredibly difficult to have a conversation with a narcissist anyway, especially if you're not saying something like, OMG, you're so amazing, right? You often are left feeling like you have been talking to a brick wall, and the truth is that talking to a brick wall is actually a little easier than talking to a narcissist. I've often compared conversations with narcissists who aren't receptive to you to banging your head against a brick wall with the expectation that something is going to change about the brick wall. Well, aside from the fact that your head's going to be all bloody and the brick wall is going to have some blood on it, there's nothing that's going to change. Communicating with a narcissist when they're in certain modes is very much like that. Having a conversation with a narcissist is exhausting. It makes you feel like maybe you're crazy or maybe they're crazy, especially because they're so good at spinning everything to their own benefit, to their own fake reality. They carry this sense of inability to take responsibility for themselves or their own behavior almost everywhere they go. And this is especially true if you've come up with some point or concern about them that is legit. It's really important to understand that part of the reason we struggle with this so much is that when we first get with a narcissist, we find ourselves wondering, well, how exactly am I supposed to relate to this person? Our first instinct is to trust what they say, is to believe what they say, because quite honestly, up to this point, we don't know that they're messed up. Once we realize, okay, I'm dealing with someone who's not normal, who's not neurologically typical, we realize, okay, we have to handle them in a different way. But up to that point, they can make us feel crazy. They can make us feel like something's wrong with us if we continue to try to have a reasonable, rational conversation with them. So basically what we're doing in that situation is we're sort of reverse projecting our own good qualities onto the narcissist, and that makes it difficult. I'm calling this a narcissistic filibuster. Let me show you what I mean by that. Take a look. So a filibuster is a political procedure where one or more members of Congress debate over a proposed piece of legislation so as to delay or entirely prevent a decision from being made on that proposal. It is sometimes referred to as talking a bill to death or talking out a bill, and is characterized as a form of obstruction in a legislature or other decision-making body. This form of political obstruction reaches back as far as ancient Roman times and could also be referred to as political stonewalling. When we're talking about a narcissistic filibuster, we're talking about someone who is actively choosing to talk you to death, talk your ear off, to basically talk you into submission. Now, sometimes this comes along with narcissistic injury and narcissistic rage. So they might start out with, poor me, how dare you accuse me of being who I really am? Or something that means that anyway. And other times they might start out with narcissistic rage, where they scream, they yell, they shout, they talk about all the things that are wrong with you. And this is where I think narcissistic deflection hops in, or the flipping of the script situation, right? Let's say the problem is that, and I'm going to come up with something really mundane here just to make it simple. Let's say the problem is that you ask them to take out the trash and they refuse to take out the trash. That's their job in the house, the only thing they have to do, and they refuse to do it. So you come to them and you say, you know, I know you're busy, but you agreed that you would take out the trash. Is there any way that you can maybe do that on your way out the door in the morning or when you get home at night? Can we work on this? And instead of going, oh sure honey, we can work on it, I know I've been forgetting, but we'll work on that, like a normal person might do, they will go, what? You're concerned about the trash? You know I work all day. You know you do nothing. You sit around at home. Of course, maybe you're a stay-at-home parent, or maybe you do work also, but they instantly start to twist the situation and figure out ways that they can make it your problem. Let's say the situation is more serious, like they've cheated on you or something. In that case, maybe the narcissist will attack you going, well, I only did it because of you, or they'll call you crazy, or they'll gaslight you, or whatever. The point is, the type of narcissist who will do a filibuster type of discussion is the type who always thinks they need to find some resolution in the situation, and they will literally talk to you for hours and hours and hours. I have actually experienced this. It is hell, because you get to the point by the end of the conversation where you're just like numb, and you just get so tired of going through the abuse that you just simply stop. You go, okay, fine, you're right, that's it. Well, that's not really obviously the best way to deal with it, but that's what ends up happening, is that when we become emotionally exhausted, physically exhausted by hours of discussion, your back starts to hurt, you know, you might try to get up and move to a different room and the narcissist follows you. Have you ever had that happen? I have. Anything like that. What we want to do is stay focused on what we can control in the situation. Often, unless you're willing to get up and physically leave the house, you can't get away from a narcissist who is in this mode. They're like a dog with a bone. So what are you supposed to do? Well, if you can't leave and go no contact, which is obviously the very best solution to this problem, what you can do is change the way you're handling the narcissist in this situation. So there are a couple of things to think about. Number one, very often these conversations begin because you've challenged something the narcissist has said or the narcissist believes. And if that thing has to do with the narcissist directly, these conversations will go on forever and ever and ever if you let them, right? Unless you just give up at the beginning. So if you're in a situation where you're planning your escape, you're trying to get out, you want to reduce conflict as much as possible to sort of give the narcissist a sense of everything's fine, because you don't want them suspecting that you are trying to leave them, right? So what you have to do instead is stay focused on, again, what you want, not what you don't want. Well, what you want is peace. So if you're going to stay focused on having peace in your home during the time that you're preparing to leave the narcissist or while you're stuck there, one thing you want to do is learn how to not discuss anything with them that will cause conflict. So if they come to you with a conflict-causing discussion, you know them well enough. You can think about what do they want to hear from me, and you can try to provide that. Now, often there's literally nothing you can say that would be enough or correct for the narcissist. So if you literally refuse to argue, that will sometimes shut them down more quickly. Now, if you're not in a situation where you're being physically abused, you can often walk away from the narcissist and continue to do so until they get tired of following you. But again, that's not always very effective. If you're able to get up and leave the house, make sure you take your keys with you, your phone, anything that you must have, because they might lock you out while you're gone. That's an option. In reality, knowing the 2 steps that it requires to manage a narcissist is very helpful. The 2 steps are, number one, you don't reward them for negative behavior. So when they give you these filibuster conversations, you gray rock, you don't react, you don't allow them to continue to drive emotion in you. And sometimes this means you have to kind of go off in your head to a different place, do what you got to do, but be careful. You don't want to fall into dissociation later. Once you are able to maintain a certain sense of gray rock where you just don't show them any emotion at all, and you don't react in any strong way to anything negative that they say, then they will start to realize, okay, well, I'm not going to get any supply out of acting this way. And even though you have to continue to do this forever because they don't change for very long, this is only management, this is not creating change, then if they do something positive that you want, you react how they would want you to react. So if they do love bomb you, let's say, and they clean the house one day or whatever, they take out the trash in all the rooms instead of just the trash in the kitchen, going back to our original example, well, then maybe you kind of boost them up on their little pedestal and give them a little extra oomph in the love department for that day. You reward them for good behavior and you punish them for bad behavior. For a narcissist, punishment is as good as not giving them attention, not giving them a reaction, not giving them any of your emotions. That's what it all comes down to. You have to remember that narcissists see conversations as verbal competitions. So don't allow them to drag you into something that you're not prepared to deal with or that you don't want to deal with in a verbal competition. You don't enjoy drama? Don't give them drama. You don't enjoy stress and anxiety and all the things that go with it? Don't show it to them, because they will definitely try to reflect that back to you and make it all about you being the bad guy and them being the good guy. The long narcissistic filibuster is not entirely avoidable unless you leave the narcissist and you stay gone. If you want to shorten the filibuster, you don't respond, you gray rock, and you say what you think they want to hear. This is not advice that I would recommend for long-term behavior. This is just advice I would recommend for getting out of a momentary situation, hopefully on your way out the door. Hopefully as you're planning your escape, because narcissists don't change. They can change, I believe, but I've never seen it happen successfully. Like someone else mentioned in a recent comment, they said, are you talking about a narcissist changing, or are you talking about a narcissist being managed? And that's what it all comes down to. It's managing a narcissist. It's not changing anything. You can't change anyone who doesn't want to be changed. And we all know that narcissists are not capable of believing they need to change. So that's what it all comes down to. This brings me to the question of the day. And the question of the day is, have you experienced the narcissistic filibuster, and what tips and ideas could you offer to your fellow survivors for getting through it? And have you ever had to deal with a narcissist silent treatment, and what did you do to cope if you did? Share your thoughts, share your ideas, share your experiences in the comment section below, and let's talk about it. As always, thank you so much for being a part of my day and a part of my life, and hey, thanks for letting me be a part of yours. It really does mean a lot to me. Now, before I go, make sure you take a look at the videos I'm going to leave for you right there and right there. And while you're here, hit the subscribe button right over there so we can stay connected and continue on this healing journey together. I'll see you soon.